Hello and welcome to Byjus Exam Prep IAS. Let's get started and look into our daily quiz. Let's look into the first question. With respect to heat waves, which of the following statements are correct? The Government of India recognizes heat wave as a natural disaster under the National Disaster Management Act of 2005. Heat wave need not be considered till maximum temperature of a station reaches at least 40 degree for the plains and at least 30 degree for hilly regions. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is 2 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Indian Express makes a reference to heat wave. Let us try and understand what are these statements. When you look into the first statement, it reads, the Government of India recognizes heat wave as a natural disaster under the National Disaster Management Act of 2005. This happens to be a wrong statement. Why? Because the Government of India does not currently recognize heat wave as a natural disaster under the National Disaster Management Act of 2005. Heat wave therefore is not eligible for the support from the national government for state disaster response funds. So this happens to be a major concern with respect to the heat waves. So the first statement is wrong. When you look into the second statement, heat wave need not be considered till maximum temperature of a station reaches at least 40 degrees centigrade for plains and at least 30 degrees for the hilly regions. This happens to be the right statement. So what is this heat wave? When we look into the World Meteorological Organization, it defines a heat wave as 5 or more consecutive days during which the daily maximum temperature exceeds the average maximum temperature by 5 degrees Celsius in that region. So what is the period of heat wave over India? When we consider India, it is generally during the period of March up until June. What we see is the heat waves. How do we define it? We have the India Meteorological Department which has given the following criteria for heat waves. Heat wave need not be considered till maximum temperature of a station reaches at least 40 degrees centigrade for plains and at least 30 degrees centigrade for hilly regions. When normal maximum temperature of a station is less than or equal to 40 degrees centigrade, heat wave departure from normal is 5 degree to 6 degree for severe heat wave departure. From normal is 7 degree or more. When normal maximum temperature of a station is more than 40 degree heat wave departure from normal is 4 degree to 5 degree. Severe heat wave departure from normal is 6 degree or more. This is the criteria that is defined by the India Meteorological Department. So whenever there are favorable conditions that are established, heat waves are created. What are these favorable conditions? Let's say for example, air that is hot and dry is frequently present in that region. The upper atmosphere is free of moisture. There should be almost no clouds in the sky. There is anticyclonic flow with a large amplitude over that particular region. This gives rise to the heat wave in the region, and ultimately people could suffer the heat stress during this period. And as part of the assignment, you have to put on the comment section what is this yellow alert with respect to the heat waves. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements with respect to FASTag. It employs radio frequency identification technology for making toll payments directly from the prepaid or savings account linked to it or directly toll owner. It is operated by the National Highway Authority of India. FASTag is vehicle specific, and once it is affixed to a vehicle, it cannot be transferred to another vehicle. Which of the statements given above are correct? The answer to this is 1, 2 and 3. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the PIB makes a reference to FASTag, which is why we have taken this practice question. What is this concept of FASTag? FASTags are basically stickers enabled with radio frequency identification technology that are stuck to the window panes of vehicle so that automatic detection of toll can happen in toll booths without having the vehicle to stop. How exactly does it work? What we have is the FASTag scanner. So this FASTag scanner basically uses the technology of RFID. What would happen? While the vehicle is still in motion, it emits a signal to your FASTag card, and ultimately the signal request would be made, signals would be sent, information would be exchanged, and ultimately the money that is present with respect to that FASTag will be ultimately detected. So FASTag basically uses the radio frequency identification technology. So the first statement is right. When you look into the second statement, yes, it is operated by the National Highway Authority of India. Second statement is also right. And third statement is also right. FASTag is vehicle specific. What do you mean by it? Let's say, for example, you have 2 to 3 cars. Let's say you own one Mercedes Benz, you own another Tata company car, or you own another Maruti Suzuki car. If this FASTag is stuck to one of the cars, can you remove it and put it on another car? No, it means it is vehicle specific. So once you attach to one single car, you would not be able to take it out and stick it to another car, which means it is vehicle specific. Once it is affixed to that vehicle, it cannot be transferred from one vehicle to another. So what are the advantages? Since we keep moving in the toll gauge without having to stop, our fuel, our time will all be saved. Digital transaction will make it easier and convenient. We need not have to carry the cash. We need not have to wait in the long queues in that particular area, and ultimately traffic and congestion will also not be present. And in all these cases, since online recharge can also be done, this is also ensuring that we have the digital India going forward. So FASTags work all over the country and are not specific to the user's place of residence or registration. Now let's look into the next practice question. Which of the following statements is correct with respect to Paris Club? It is a group of officials from major creator countries whose role is to find coordinated and sustainable solutions to the payment difficulties experienced by debtor countries. The Paris Club was created in response to 2008 financial crisis. There are currently 122 permanent members of the Paris Club. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is one only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Indian Express makes a reference to Paris Club. Let us try and understand what are these statements. When you look into the first statement is right. It is a group of officials from major creditor countries whose role is to find coordinated and sustainable solutions to the payment difficulties. Let's say, for example, we have Sri Lanka in the present crisis. It is going through some grave economic situation. So what would happen? It would have taken money from multiple countries. Let's say, for example, it has taken from France, it has taken from United States of America. So this country has taken money from another country for its own public purposes. But all of a sudden, it is going through some grave economic crisis. It is not able to pay back the country from which it has taken money from. So what will happen? All these countries, the greater countries, for example, France, United States of America, they all come together, they discuss, and on the basis of consensus, they ultimately issue some principles and guidelines for Sri Lanka. What would happen? They would say, okay, you go ahead and pay this particular amount in so and so period. So we are going to extend this particular timeline by another 1 year or 2 years. So you can pay after 2 years, or there might be an interest that is charged, let's say, for example, about 1% or 0.5%. This can also be reduced if they so decide to. If they do not decide to on the basis of consensus, that interest rate will also not be reduced. So there is a creditor country, there is a debtor country, and ultimately the country which is paid, another country, they all come together, discuss what should be the possible way of addressing this issue. So the first statement is right. When you look into the second statement, the Paris Club was created in response to 2008 financial crisis. This happens to be a wrong statement. Why? That is because the Paris Club was created back in the year 1956, and the first negotiation happened between Argentina and its public creditors that took place in the year 1956, and since 1956 Paris Club has signed more than 433 agreements. So it was not in response to the 2008 financial crisis. Then the third statement reads, there are currently 122 permanent members. This happens to be a wrong statement. Why? Because it only has 22 permanent members. And as part of the assignment, you have to put on the comment section which are these permanent members who are part of the Paris Club. Please put it on the comment section. What are the principles that the Paris Club looks into? One is with respect to the solidarity. All members of the Paris Club agree that this is a particular group where we have to share the information. So the information that one country has with respect to another country, the same is actually sent from one country to another. So the Paris Club is information sharing forum. They also gather this information on a case to case basis. There is no one objective criterion, but it is a subjective criterion. So for Sri Lanka, it may be a different economic crisis. For Pakistan, it might be a different economic crisis. Nepal, it is different. So it is analyzed on a case to case basis, and the major principle is that decisions are taken on the basis of consensus. These are some of the guiding principles with respect to the operation of Paris Club. Now let's look into the next practice question. The Uttaramerur inscription provides information on the administration of Kadambas, Cholas, Rashtrakutas, Cheras. The answer to this is Cholas. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Indian Express makes a reference to Uttaramerur inscription. Why are we discussing about it? Because Prime Minister Narendra Modi made a reference to Uttaramerur inscription. So this is in reference to the Chola dynasty. So the Prime Minister Narendra Modi referred to Uttaramerur inscription in Kanchipuram. Where is this Uttaramerur? This happens to be in the present day Kanchipuram district. This is approximately about 90 km from Chennai, and this happens to be a small town, and historic temples have been built in this place during the rule of Chola dynasty. What does the inscription speak about? It basically speaks about the functioning of the local Sabha, that is the village assembly, and how the system was operating back during the Chola period. So the Uttaramerur inscription basically speaks about the village administration. It describes how the Sabha shall be constituted. The inscription says there will be 30 wards. Everyone living in these 30 wards would assemble and select one representative for the village assembly. It then goes on to describe what qualifications that should a representative have. The inscription then lists the number of factors which disqualify someone from becoming a representative. The inscription describes a number of important committees within the Sabha, and this speaks about the administration of the Chola Empire. Now let's look into the next practice question. Who among the following rejected the title of knighthood and refused to accept a position in the Council of Secretary for India? We have Motilal Nehru, M.G. Ranade, G.K. Gokhale, and B.G. Tilak. The answer to this is G.K. Gokhale. This happens to be a previous year question from the year 2008. So we have Gopal Krishna Gokhale, who was a great social reformer. He was an educationist who provided exemplary leadership to India's freedom movement. It is he who had rejected the title of knighthood, refused to accept a position in the Council of the Secretary of State for India. So this happens to be very important from the preliminary examination point of view. Now let's look into the fact of the day. The fact of the day for today's discussion is about Maternity Benefit Act. Let us try and understand what is this article speaking about. Let's look into the context. The Supreme Court has agreed to hear a challenge to the constitutional validity of Section 5 of 4 of the Maternity Benefit Act of 1961. So there is an issue with respect to Section 5 of 4 of the Maternity Benefit Act. So petitioners have gone to the Supreme Court of India. So the Supreme Court will listen what their contentions are. What does the Section 5 of 4 of the Maternity Benefit Act speak about? It states that a woman who legally adopts a child below the age of 3 months will be entitled to 12 weeks maternity benefit leave. What is the benefit that a woman would get if she is adopting a child which is less than 3 months? What she'll be entitled to is 12 weeks maternity leave. Now let's look at what happened in 2017. In 2017, what we had was a major amendment. According to it, a woman who legally adopts a child below the age of 3 months or a commissioning mother shall be entitled to maternity benefit for a period of 12 weeks from the date the child is handed over to the adopting mother or the commissioning mother, as the case may be. Who is the commissioning mother? A commissioning mother happens to be a surrogate mother. A surrogate mother has been defined as a biological mother who uses her egg to create an embryo implanted in any other woman. So what exactly is the major issue? When we look into the present situation, what we have is 26 weeks of leave that is given to a woman because she has to take care of a child. So the current situation is that there is 26 weeks of leave for the normal woman, which means that she is able to bear the child, that she is given birth to this particular child. So the amount of leave that is given to this person is about 26 weeks to take care of the child below the age of 3 months. But in the Maternity Benefit Act of 1961, if a person is adopting a child who is less than 3 months, what is the leave that is given? It is 12 weeks. If it is of her own child where she has given birth to it, it is 26 weeks. But in that case, it is about 12 weeks. So what we see is a conflict. What we see is arbitrariness. What we see is discrimination. On one side, there are women who've given birth to a child, they're getting 26 weeks of paid leave. On the other side, if they have adopted, if they are commissioning mothers, they are only getting about 12 weeks of maternity leave. That is why they have gone to the Supreme Court of India discussing this very discrepancy and saying that this is a violation of equality because both the mothers take care of their children. In this particular case, 12 weeks is given if they have adopted, which is not right. This should be extended to 26 weeks is what is their contention. So they currently go on to say that this is a violation of Article 14. This is a violation of right to equality, and this has to be changed even for those women who adopt, and at the same time for those women who are the commissioning mothers. Added to it, Section 5 of 4 also arbitrarily discriminates against orphan, abandoned or surrogated children above the age of 3 months, which is completely incompatible to the object of the Maternity Benefit as well as Juvenile Justice Act. On one side, you promote adoption, but at the same time, you're not giving time for the mothers to spend time with their children who are less than 3 months and after 3 months as well. This ultimately means there is discrimination, says this article. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this topic. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.